What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kevin Moore Show. Now, if you want to stay up to date with all my latest videos, just click that subscribe button below, as this also helps to support the channel. Now, if you're new to the show, I interview guests from a spiritual perspective, covering mainstream and alternative subjects. Now, on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Dr. Kimberly Mac George. Now, Dr. Kimberly is an internationally renowned neuropathic doctor, energy healer, remote viewer, and conscious teacher and medium. She has worked on thousands of people across the world, and her latest groundbreaking program, Frequency Master, teaches us how to master frequencies in your own life, and she trains other healers to use her technique as well. Dr. Kimberly Mac George, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so excited.
Yeah, now, obviously, this is, just going over your work. I've got notes all over my desk, right? There's so much different directions we could take this interview, and I'm going to try to, get most of it in there if I can do, right? Or what I think is important, but there's so many interesting aspects of it. I think you've been asked this question before probably, but I want to ask you just now, just for the audience as well. What was your sort of awakening journey? Where did that start for you? Because I think you've been doing this for a long time, haven't you?
I have. My awakening journey is really kind of stop-start, because although I didn't know I was, when I was a baby, I was born with partial memory. I had this exact mind and intelligence and everything in a baby body, and I was fully conscious of it. Although I did not remember my previous life, I remembered my being. And so I really struggled young with so much boredom, being stuck in this child body with these abilities. And I was aware fairly young I had these abilities. What I wasn't aware of was that nobody else around me anyway had them. So that created a huge super confusion. Something feels really wrong about this place. What is wrong? Why do I feel so disassociated from my family? Why do I feel so disassociated from everyone else? Why can't everybody see spirits? Why can't everybody remote view? Why can't everybody see auras and colors? So, kind of trying to fit into 3D was really a struggle, especially when I went to school. Super boring for me. And it wasn't until I went to college I actually started coming out using my abilities. I call that a little bit of my awakening. But I grew up in a really religious home, so I was under a heavy Christianity program, and I don't even think I had a full breaking from that program until 3 years ago, where I totally gave up all religion. which is definitely a program. So awakening to me is, I think, even outside of here, even after we pass and whatever dimension we go to and whatever we choose to do, it's a life, an eternal process. Let's put it that way.
It's ongoing, isn't it? Yeah, and even if the idea of that we've been here before, maybe, or we this isn't the first trip round, that it's still ongoing, isn't it? Even in all those what we maybe term, if they do happen, previous or future or whatever lives, it's always a continuous, continuous. And it's not easy. Do you think at school that you was a bit of a loner in a sense then, but by the sound of it?
Are you psychic? Oh, wait, you are, Kevin. Absolutely. I was such a loner that I was so ashamed of my abilities, and really I was deeply ashamed. I don't know why, but I was, and I was so ashamed. I was so afraid somebody was going to find out and put me in a mental institution because I saw spirits, or because I knew things other people didn't, or because, I saw sigils and information around people's bodies. I'm sure people weren't seeing that, and I also have this super weird ability, which I didn't know is a higher dimensional ability until recently, really, where I can merge with anything, a tree, an animal, a plant, a house, a person, and become them and view everything from the inside out. And I used to practice as a medical intuitive before I started using technology. And I would literally crawl around people's bodies, like in their veins, in their liver, in their brain, and, pull out and go in. And I could read all their emotions, all their thoughts. I could see out of their eyes. And thankfully, I call myself lazy now because I have my technology to do that for me, because it's very exhausting. So because I had all those abilities as a child, I felt very strange, very, very strange. So it was very hard.
I can almost sympathize with you a little bit because, I can imagine that was difficult. And even when you say that, you were sort of, awakened, and you realized that you was fully almost present sometimes when at the age that you shouldn't have been. Was that only when you look back now you realize that that was the case, and actually maybe in the growing up period, there were times when you couldn't even reflect like that in some respects?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree. We all come in and out, old souls like you and I. We all come in and out of our presence of being where we're sucked kind of deeper into the density here, and we forget.
Sometimes you're playing the game, sometimes you're not. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And we forget. And I think I did click in at times and forget the bigger picture, let's say. Although I remember when I didn't know, since I've talked to many people that did this, but I remember, being 7 and looking up in the sky and being like, who is God? And why am I female instead of male? And all these like profound questions. And, what is this body? And why am I here? I mean, those are big questions for a normal 7-year-old to, stand around thinking, in the middle of the day. I don't think they do. Now I know why. Now I know we have simulation, non-player characters. Now I know we have clones. So now I understand why the reals, which I think are spread out geographically, feel so strange.
So family-wise, is your dad still with us?
Yes, absolutely. He's a evangelical pastor.
Wow. Okay. So, so I mean, I believe that your relationship with him is pretty good. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it is. And how has he accepted, the transformation?
You're so funny because you're so intuitive, which I was going to tell you, but you know that, and your audience knows that. What's funny with you saying that? You would only be correct in that statement the past year and a half, 2 years. I didn't even feel like I had a dad. Like, I didn't even know what it was like to have, I didn't know him. My parents were very obsessed with church, and they were very 3D. So they did all the right things. I mean, if you looked at my home from the outside, you'd be like, oh my gosh, like perfect home, upper middle class family, golf course community, private schools, church on Sunday, church on Wednesday. I had my little brother, nice house, always food on the table, perfect, white middle class suburban life. But the distance, I didn't know what relationship, for some reason, my parents didn't do well having relationship with and it's weird to think about, but you're right. So for some reason, the past year and a half, like, my dad and I have grown very close, and I'm almost closer to my dad now than my mom. As a matter of fact, this sounds so weird to say. And I just said to my daughter yesterday, if you had told me years ago I'd be going to the beach alone with my dad, I would say you're crazy. But now we're that close that we can hang out, together.
With mum as well, how's she sort of accepted things?
She accepts things with what a lot of people accept things with, the brilliant concept of denial. so
Right.
they don't acknowledge, like they never ask me about my work. Like they love the advantages of my work. Like they love to be taken out for dinner. They love to go on vacation, but I think they're praying for me that I'll come back from my road to hell, basically,
Well, thank God you've taken that road sort of at a later time, because maybe if you do you think it would have been too much, what your truth is now would have been too much previously for you, and but maybe it was sometimes as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things, my dad being a pastor and me having these psychic experiences and sometimes letting them out accidentally. I was exorcised, how people, like The Exorcist, I was exorcised by my father and by members of the church many times, which is it is very dramatic, especially when it doesn't work. They get very intense and they get very angry. But that was very reassuring to me. I think I always held that. And at the time I believed in God. Now I don't even believe in God, which is a whole nother conversation probably. But at the time I believed in God, and I thought, well, God must have given me these abilities, because when you've been exercised by many different people like 8 times and you still have them, like that's pretty powerful. So that actually was the absolutely reverse of what they wanted to happen. They wanted me to give it out. They wanted to drive out the demons and the gifts. But for me, it was an affirmation that they were real and a core part of who I was.
Of course, absolutely. So, okay, there must have been obviously a life before this as well. So, we're at college. Go back to college a little bit here, right? So, we're at college. Did you see the college through? Was there a career that you saw through for a while?
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting. No, I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. So I started out in radio. And I always say you never know, like these casual comments you make to young people or anyone, really how you can change someone's life. I was narrating a church play, of course, and I was the narrator, and a guy who worked for an advertising agency came up to me afterwards when I was in 8th grade, and he said, "You have a great voice. You'd be awesome in radio." And so that whole thing, I mean, I basically on and off done radio my whole life, because just as, I've had podcasts and I do YouTube videos and I am on shows and do shows, I still consider this kind of still being in radio. So it served me really well,
It is, isn't it? It's the new form of radio. That's exactly what it is. It's just another form of it's all broadcasting, isn't it? It's all communication. Right. And how long did you do that for then? How long did that last for?
Well, I always say made it in radio in Chicago when I was 20, which is kind of depressing because most people, you can imagine, New York, LA and Chicago are the 3 largest, radio markets in the US. So to make it so big and be hanging out with the rock bands, Bon Jovi and Aerosmith, and having all this fame by association, and it was big in the head. And so then I went back home to Columbus, Ohio after a while, and I worked in smaller radio stations. Got married, had 4 children, kind of got away from it, still worked in it a little bit part-time, and then on and off coming back to it through my next career, through this. So I've never really been out. But
what was the trigger then for going into your psychic work and your spiritual work? What sort of forced you to do that then?
That's a great question too. And I did a little bit in college because I was far enough away from my parents. I wasn't worried about what they thought. And I did a lot of this, is he going to ask me out? Does she like me? Are they cheating? When am I going to get married? Everybody's obsessed with that in college. So I did a lot of that. And then through rumors, I don't even know how it happened. It was so long ago, but through rumors, the law enforcement in the local area, I went to school in the Fox River Valley, which is a huge occult area. So there's a lot of cousins, there's a lot of animal sacrifice, satanic ritual abuse there. So I got the attention of local law enforcement, which in the 80s, they were just forming occult crime units in some of the police stations as a trial thing across the country. So I kind of got in at the beginning of that, and I helped them solve some weird, not so great crimes, but yeah. So I worked a little with, in college. Didn't get paid a lot. It wasn't glamorous. My name wasn't announced. It's not like Medium on TV or anything. You don't get famous just because you work with the police. As a matter of fact, it was very much on the down low back then. They're like, oh, one, but would you like to do this? So now it's a little different. There's some of them are more open about it. So I did work professionally then, and then I went into alternative health. And of course, alternative health is acceptable. Like vitamins are acceptable. You don't have to worry about people judging you for, saying take vitamin C. So it really wasn't until, about 10 or 12 years ago that I decided, I know this, I don't mean any disrespect to people who use this term to define their sexuality, but to me, it felt the same or similar as them. I really felt like I came out of the closet, that I'd been hiding and lying to everyone my whole life, that I did see spirits, that I did see paranormal things, that I did have these strong abilities. And so it was about 10 years ago, I told my mom that I saw ghosts still for the first time. It was a big relief. And then just a couple of months ago was the first time I told my parents that I totally rejected religion. I don't believe in heaven. I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in God. And yeah, that went over well. But I like to just have everything on the table. Like life is short to pretend,
No, absolutely. And I'm guessing then that took you on a journey, a massive journey, doing that type of work. You must have, well, I guess, what was it? Did it become your sort of full-time job then, I suppose, doing that type of work?
For the last 10, 12 years, I still do a lot of natural medicine. It's all kind of, as you can tell my website, it's all kind of schizophrenically, beautifully wound together because we're whole people. We're metaphysical, and we have these past lives, and we have these future lives, and we have these programming and beliefs, and we have these night lives that most of us don't know with my lives and SSP and alien abduction. And we have relations. I mean, there's just so much. So now I feel like I treat or work with a whole person, including the spiritual aspects of the being, not just the physical.
Yes, absolutely. Gosh, there's so much to your story here. Where did the books come in as well? Because we've got a number of books here. That we've got The Secret to Everything. Obviously,
Right.
Your website, just for the podcast as well, Kimberly, is?
Oh, secrettoeverything.com.
Okay, so that's coming up on the screen, and anything we talk about will be what I call in the description below. Just go to the show more part just below this video. You'll see all the links to Kimberly, and there's a number. So yeah, I've got The Secret to Everything, and then I believe there was another book as well on manifestation. You tell me. Yeah.
There is. I'll tell you, that came in about 2013, and I don't know if you remember, but back then, The Secret and manifestation and all that was all the rage. And it was really under the advice of, I was breaking into the telesummit industry, which isn't so big, but it used to be really big back then. And so I came in on that same train. Everybody who doesn't want to be rich, right? I mean, come on, who doesn't want abundance? It's not a hard thing to sell. So that's kind of where I slipped in, to be known. I was first known for, that kind of thing. And I shared this with you off the air, but there's a lack of authenticity, because when you have an agent, I have a promotion agent now, but she's very different. But with my agent back then, it's about pain points. They teach you how to sell to pain points. They teach you how to say and do this to make the most money, because a lot of people may not know this, but when you have an agent, you don't necessarily pay them a fee, you pay them a percentage. So they're working with you to make the most amount of money possible so they can have the highest percentage possible. You lose something in that process, I found. So even though I became extremely well known, we had it blows my mind now. I can't imagine now managing the energy of 400 people, 500 people on a call. But we would have these calls, and we'd have 400, 500 people on them, and people would get mad because you can't get to 500 people. You can't relate intimately and authentically with 500 people. And so I was kind of drowning in that at the time. And it was also really bad for my ego, because I always say, everybody's like, oh, I want to be rich and famous. I'm like, you really don't. Because I always say it's a wonderful thing to be worshipped. It is. It's amazing. If you guys have never been worshipped, try it sometime. But it's the most horrific thing to be worshipped. It is a true double-edged sword. So I didn't handle being the guru, and we would have crazy things would happen. So we would have these groups of 500 people, and then we'd have breakaway groups that would get really ticked off, and they'd get together and they would form Facebook hate groups against me. Like it was like, and you don't think it affects you, but it really does. And it's like a car accident. Like you have to look like, I shouldn't have read it. I shouldn't have gone into the energy, but of course it's about you. So you read it and then you feel horrible. And then some of it's true. And then you try to deny that it's true because you're this great, all powerful, perfect guru. And it was a mess. And so, like I shared with you, I couldn't handle it. I had an absolute nervous breakdown, exhausted. I think I laid in bed for a year, and I'm not making that up.
Yeah, so yeah, you could say your time at hospital was actually sleeping, sleeping it off. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and I honestly never thought I'd even be talking to you or you guys here today. I never thought I would come back to the work. I never thought I'd be a practicing psychic. Never thought I'd heal. Never thought I'd use anything in any way. I thought I was done.
It's
done.
Funny, innit? What it just will not leave you alone, will it? It just pulled you back. But a better version.
Because when it's I now have memories that I didn't have back then, and now I know it's the essence of who I've chosen to be over and over and over, not for millions of years, but for trillions of years, because I happen to be an extremely old breakaway from the all, one of the originals. You're very old as well. And in a lot of my lives, I've spent a lot of time, non-time, because there is no time. So I hate using that. That's why I say non-time. But I spent a lot of that breakaway till now time being a healer. As a matter of fact, I am well known in the multiverse, on other planets, in other galaxies, and other systems. I'm highly trained by many ET races. They know my name. They request me. Sometimes I'm the only person allowed on a planet or in a ship. And so these healing abilities are finely honed. They're the essence of who I am, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think your honesty and integrity with sharing that story about, even the story about having an agent. I see that in this field. There are people out there with agents, and they become a barrier, and you wouldn't think it,
Exactly.
especially when there's major money involved. Oh my gosh. That is a strange thing to see, and most people don't see it because they don't know there's an actual agent there, but there is. And some of these agents you think have got the best interest, but actually it's just about the dollar.
Especially in the love and light industry, we see Hay House, and we see The Secret, and we see all
Hay
the
House. Oh my God. Let me just stop you
and
there. Don't forget your thought. I want to say something. I've got to say it. You started it, right? No, I'm joking. Right, but when you mention Hay House, they are so controlling of their authors. You are not allowed to interview them, barely, unless you're a mega name. They don't want you. They want it kept between in their in interverse. Within the Hay House group with their radio shows and everything else. Yeah, it's so controlled. Sorry if I made you forget what you were doing. Yeah.
It's so, but I think it's, I dated, a long time ago, I was engaged to, which he actually kind of started me in this frequency MP3 thing, but I was engaged to a neurosurgeon who worked for Homeland Security. And I didn't know this. Now everybody knows it and I feel dumb, but he showed me this big chart that he wasn't supposed to show me. And it showed how the love and light new age community was connected to the intelligence agencies, which I know now everybody knows, but I didn't know it. It blew me away. I'm like, it makes sense. Everything's controlled here. Everything's programmed here. But at the time I was like, whoa, now it makes more sense why they don't give you the whole story. Even The Secret doesn't teach you how the fabric of this reality really works. And there are ways. I mean, we absolutely are 100%, each one of us right this second, you, me, everyone else, including animals, which is a whole nother discussion, but we're all creating our own reality. That's true. But they don't tell you the truth. They don't tell you the whole thing. They just give you enough to make money off you. And then they say, see ya.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what you might agree with this as well is that, you maybe you've said this already, that, you're on your journey, as you learn something more or you grow more, with the work that you're doing, you may change your views on a few things. I'm sure you do.
Said that. That's so great that you said that, because everyone's like, oh, you know everything. I'm like, no, I only know what I know that I know now. And in the last 5 years, I've radically like changed my views. Like I said, I've completely, only in the last 5 years, completely rejected religion. I've totally changed my views about who Jesus Christ was and why he came. I mean, things that I never thought I would have ever given up. I at least thought I'd hold on to the concept of God, for goodness sakes, but it's gone. So it's an evolution for sure.
Well, maybe maybe I don't want to use the word. I was going to say there, maybe your breakdown, and I stopped myself there, but I've said it. But maybe your breakdown was your breakthrough in some ways.
Oh gosh, absolutely. I say that sometimes. I mean, my son-in-law didn't know me before my breakdown. He only knew me after. And my daughter says, you do not know the mother that I grew up with. She wasn't saying I'm horrible. She's just saying I'm different. And I mean, there's even been some discussion of walk-ins and things, because that's how radically.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I mean, maybe you wouldn't meant to know some things. I mean, maybe that could have happened as well. I mean,
yeah, that's true. I don't have a memory of that, but I'll tell you, Kevin, the best thing that's changed is up until the age of 43, I always had this low level anxiety, anger, depression. I can't even explain it. And it was always churning inside of me. And even on a good day, it was kind of like you were scared it was going to come back. So I was always experiencing it or fearing it. But since the age of 43, I have like just beautiful space, just expansion. There's no anger, there's no anxiety. I've totally changed. So it's a good thing.
Now, and as well, you had a massive workload before, and I know your workload's sort of building up again. But I think you're attracting different people right now. Maybe as you've changed, and there's a sort of different attraction to the work. But you still do. Obviously, we've got the email readings. I've been going over your website. There's a number of different services that you do. Now, just tell me about the reading you did for me and what reading this is that you do for people.
Yeah, and I'd love to give you a little sample if you'll allow me. I'm going to briefly explain it though. So we do what's called a tap scan, which is a brief look, 15, 20-minute look at you. And then we do what's called a full scan, which is a 30 or more minute look at you, depending. And a tap scan, usually, someone says, I've been feeling depressed. Can you figure out why? And we'll go down that or a couple areas. And a full scan, usually we say it's what you want to know about you, because contrary to popular opinion, it's not really me being psychic. Of course, I can't turn off that part of me. That does come into play. I can't turn off my naturopathic doctor background. That comes into play. But we're these radio broadcasting towers. So everything in us, all our programming, everything that you dreamed last night, every relationship, every feeling, every event, and it's not just every event that happened in this life on Earth. We carry all our memories actually in our energy field. Everyone thinks we carry them in the brain, but we don't. Carry them in the energy field. So they're very easy to be accessed. And what I love about technology, this quantum technology, which interestingly enough, because I used to watch Star Trek when I was a kid, and they had those they looked like iPads, day by the bed, and they would like dial up and say you're this, this, this. And now I don't even have to have the person standing there. Like they probably had this. They've had this technology forever, millions of years, I'm sure. But they've allowed us to have it, and I'm so thankful. But so all this quantum technology does is impartially, it doesn't care. It doesn't care if you're happy, Kevin, or if you're depressed. It's just going to interpret the frequencies, and I'm the mouthpiece, because at the time, the technology doesn't talk. So when we do a full scan, as you'll see on you, I did your scan according to, you didn't ask me to do anything. This is what your spirit wanted me to talk to you about.
Okay, yeah. So which picture are you going to look at first then, Kimberly?
The darker one, the one with the brown, purple.
Okay, that's on the screen.
Okay. So the first thing we start with when we do a scan is we do a first pull aura. And so I pulled your aura, and it was really interesting because in Secret to Everything, we kind of have these core tenets that we look for as we go through life, high frequency. And so when we look at aura colors, we want to see kind of like construction worker colors, like the fluorescent vest, the fluorescent orange, the vibrant reds, high level purples. We don't want to see darkness. We don't want to see gray. We don't want to see muted colors. And then we want to see integration. We actually want to see one color. So even though you may express yourself as many different aspects of being, really a whole integrated person that's not divided up in alters, you're always going to present fully as yourself. No matter what self you're being, you're going to be all of that self, not a fragmented version. So that's how we can tell people have a lot of altars. And then we want to see expansion, which I want to point out that you actually have. So we want to see corner to corner color, no matter what color it is. That shows you're doing the work. You're usually connecting with the all. You're not being repressed from the outside or restricted from the inside. So let's look at the first thing I want to point out about your aura is we have this beautiful, vibrant violet, one of the highest frequency colors available on this planet. Down the Hara line, which is the middle line, show very old soul, very connected, highly, even listening to the interview, I can tell, but highly, a higher level intuitive, probably than you own or present some of the time, but very, very intuitive, gifted psychically person. That's your primary gift, actually. But then we also see these darker colors. So there's some heaviness, and we'll get into that in the scan because that actually comes through what some of that is. And then after this scan, so after all these things that I'm going to tell you, I ran the balancing frequencies through you, and I also did some energy work on you. And then we went to the next aura, which you can definitely see the darkness has moved out and gone away. And now we see another one of your abilities come in, which is communication, which we know, and healing, which is the green. And even though, the beautiful purple went away, what the light blue color means is new energy coming in. So we brought new energy coming in to start to integrate and shake things up. So that's another thing I love about technology is even if you're like, I don't feel anything, I'll be like, well, you will, because your whole energy changed. And we have, everything's frequency, even in the multiverse, we have the pictures to prove it. So I love that, a lot of healers can't prove anything other than the person's opinion, which is worth a lot. But I love that we have the pictures to prove that energy moves. So let me share some things that you told me that you wanted to talk about. So I looked really quickly at your chakras, and again, we can tell you do your spiritual work and or that you're an older soul because all your chakras were balanced except for your crown. So there is not a 100% connection, at least today, with what I would call the all. That's closed right now for some reason. You have a lot of entities either in your location, and I didn't look deeply into this because we all crawl with entities. I have a video on YouTube about it. We're like, entities. Oh my gosh, you guys, like everybody has entities usually on them in their house, I'm sure. But yeah, so you have some entities. But then looked your brain chemistry. I think you suffer from a decent amount of anxiety because your being was calling for GABA. And GABA is something usually the body really likes for people with anxiety. Also, your brain chemicals look pretty good except for dopamine. And dopamine is our pleasure, joy, like kind of ecstasy chemical. And if it's not balanced, it just says to me, you could be happier. Doesn't mean you're like in a deep depression, but you could be happy. Definitely under a lot of stress right now, like who isn't? We see this a lot. The adrenals are very, very stressed. I'm going to skip around because you skipped around when your spirit was talking to me. So your spirit also said, remember to have a sense of humor and embody that no matter what you're going through. See change and flow a positive thing and embrace it instead of kind of resent it or chafe against it. Right now, your primary issue in your life is safety and security. The way to prosperity for you right now, your spirit is saying, is get out of your own way. The only person stopping you from accomplishing every goal that you want to achieve, you're not being attacked by dark forces. You're not being blocked by the multiverse or the AI computer. It is Kevin. Kevin is stopping Kevin. So get out of your own way and you're good to go. I'm just going to bring in the frequency right now for your audience and you of I am divine prosperity, which you asked me to bring in. Affluence is my true nature. I breathe and make money. We're going to bring that energy into the audience and into your field right now. And I also played that through your field and frequency. You have intense psychic vision, which we already saw. I encourage you to follow it. You do use it. You do follow it, but you don't use it and follow it enough. So trust that even more than you ever have to this point in your life, because it is like 100% accurate. one of the things you can do right now to help yourself, and your oversoul spoke to me and your soul family spoke to me, ask for help. So ask for help from you that is all consciousness that's outside of you, and ask for help from your latest spirit family. It's also funny because I'm doing these groups called remembering groups to remember who you are. Everybody's like, what's my soul family? What's my soul family? And I'm like, for these old souls, I'm like, which one? Like, you've chosen to be many expressions of being through trillions of years. Which one do you want to know about? You have some blood sugar issues, which you probably know about, I think. For you, because of your blood sugar issues, intermittent fasting is good, but no more than 12 hours. So I don't know if you've ever tried intermittent fasting, but you would do really well with 12 hours. There's a, funny enough with my views on Christianity, but there's an old tool, the ram's horn, called the Shofar, which we have found does really well to clear spaces. And so your space asks to be cleared from the Shofar. So I'm going to send you over the Shofar with frequencies that I made later off the air. You're testing high, resonating high with vitamin C, which is pretty neutral and common. Also, this is interesting and a big finding if you don't know about it. You resonated with a product called methylfolate plus. Methylfolate plus is our strongest clinical remedy for genetic testing for MTHFR and MTRR. Have you ever been genetically tested, and do you know what those are?
No, I haven't, and I'm not too sure.
Well, I'm going to tell you. It means whenever you're stressed, you get even more anxious, more obsessive compulsive, more depressed, whatever your weird makeup that you go to when your stress gets worse, and it can be fixed. And my guess is, since you've been on this earth and we're born, you don't even know what it feels like to be perfectly, let's say, happy, at peace, calm, and centered. You've always had a little bit of a jangly personality, and it's genetic, and it can be fixed. And if you do decide to do something about it, your life will change. And part of what will change will be your road to prosperity. Prosperity will be easier because when you have clear vision and you have focus and you don't have all this distraction, like I feel like crap and I'm tired and blah, 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 and lack of motivation, so that's big. I want you to hit me up if you want to know more about that after the show. Okay. You're a super unique older soul. This is interesting too, because your spirit also told me your success in this life is related to how quickly you remember the fullness of who you are in all time and all space, and embody it. So we can all be like, oh yeah, I was Zeus. Well, who cares? If you can't embody that and bring that down and have that change how you relate in every single decision, it doesn't matter who you were. So not only do you need to remember, but you need to embody that and hold that. And of course, the program works against us with all the memory wiping technology. Even if we know 100% and can remember these lives, it's still taken from us. So it is a challenge. Integrate your deeper emotions. You're a very emotional person. You're a very passionate person, but it's weird, as emotional and as passionate as you are, you kind of stir in these emotions and then you lock them in a closet. You stir in these emotions and then you lock them in another closet. So fully process those and let them go. You have what's called an ancient soul signature, which all ancient beings have the same signature. That was really clear to me. You would benefit highly by doing deeper shadow work and inner child healing. You tend to rely, I feel like we're in a session, no one's listening, right? But you rely on others for your security, which is so interesting because you are like this kick-A powerful being who like needs no one, but you give your power up under other people and then they take like the chair out from underneath you, and it's ridiculous. You need to stop doing that. You also have what's called breakaway altars, which we all have because we're marked, we're what's called yellow tagged when we come in. So you've been yellow tagged. So we're kind of like oppressed and attacked and put in these mind control programs because we're holding up the whole reality, the ancient ones. You have what's called AI, artificial intelligence coordinator, locator, positive and negative trackers that could actually be found on MRIs or CAT scans. Some are placed there from your soul family to keep track of you and for communication, which is why you need to talk to them. And of course, some is placed there by our friends, the corporations, military, and our loving governments. for you, lavender oil, if you're not using it, you should like own like gallons of it. Very good for you. Kava is very good for you. Patch MD has a nice sleep patch that would help you have a little better sleep, a little easier. You have beans in your house right now that need to be cleared. Your nervous system, this is part of your MTHFR. And we all need to focus on down regulating our nervous system, you included. You are in my labs. I believe you were in Project Surrogate, which means your family's not really your family. You guys can look that up. I think there's information on that. You've been to the Mars base, you've been to the Antarctic base, you've been through jump gates on Earth in this time period. You're in the SSP program. You work for Dark Fleet and Kruger. Kruger is good for duality. Dark Fleet is bad. The Germans. You've been a member of Aries Prime. You have a satanic ritual abuse signature that might not be conscious. You've been abducted under the age of 3 in 20, 40, 60, 80, and back. And that's all I'm going to tell you for today. But I could keep talking for like 24 hours.
I'm going to come back to you on some of that. That is, I resonate with the psychic side. Most definitely the psychic side, because I don't really talk about this. But yeah, okay. So if I had a gift that I could say, well, I think there's something there, would be, yeah, I can just see future events sometimes, and whether it's I'm interacting with someone or it's something else, I just go in this space and I can just I just know what's going to happen. I don't talk about it. I just know the outcome. Yeah, I haven't talked about that actually. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to watch this back.
I know. I just wanted to get it all in there before you cut me off.
No, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you for that, and we've been putting the pictures up there as well. Now, obviously, because I was when you was telling me all this stuff, I'm like, okay, I wonder what the difference is. I'm taking in what you're saying as well, but obviously with the interview there, I'm thinking, what is the difference then between a one-on-one with Kimberly and what you've just done there, which is the the scanned reading?
Right. Don't need to be there live. And usually when people want to book a one-on-one, I'm like, let's start with a scan and see if that meets your needs. Because I give you an MP3, that helps feel with the frequencies. But a one-on-one, I do more healing work that you may or may not be aware of. I tell you what I'm doing. It has that real-time interaction. So that was a lot of information in a blitz. You might have had questions. You might have wanted to tell me something in response. So that gives you the opportunity to say, wait, tell me a little bit more. I don't even know what SSP is. Like some people don't, or what is, tell me more about MTHFR. It just gives you an opportunity for dialogue. And I can also in real time, because I didn't do it because it doesn't always make good radio, but in real time on a one-on-one, I am doing it in real time. So I'm doing this scan live. I did that right before the show.
Listen, I appreciate you just demoing that, because when we talked about that, I was like, that's a good idea. I don't mind you doing that at all. It's funny you talk about the SSP stuff. My next documentary is all based on the secret space program, but it's based on those coming out who say they were part of it and they're not. It's about the discernment within it.
Are you kidding me? That's a big thing for me right now, because I say I'm the only person. I don't know if I wrote you this, but I said I'm the only person I feel that has, maybe you do too, but the ability to tell what's true and false. And I haven't done any videos, but I'm about to do some videos too, revealing because we get so many cover memories and false memories. How do we know?
How do we know the people who are involved in promoting the disinformation also don't have the cover memories there from other things?
I want to expose that too. I even pitched myself to a secret space convention, because they have these, big conventions in Las Vegas. And I said, and the organizer said to my agent, absolutely not. Why would I have her on? Like, she's going to disprove. But I thought it was exciting. Like, why wouldn't you want to know the truth?
The one I'm doing is based on a guy called Mark Richards, and it involves a true crime meets the secret space program. So basically, he was part of the murder of his good friend back in '82. He's saying that he was framed for the murder for being part of the secret space program. He's been inside for 38 years, and this is the unraveling of it to show he is a liar, and he was involved in the murder, and he's where he needs to be. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a mess. It is interesting. Although I do believe, my observation using this technology and technology like it for 25 years, is this technology is 100% accurate. So as long as we write the back end software program right, we can answer all those questions. That's what's so frustrating to me. We have this like precision, like I ran this on a lot of my clients are doctors and nurses, and they use this technology in clinics because we have found it's just as accurate as lab testing. It picks up things even before the lab tests. I have a story that's a horrible story. I had a longtime client. I loved her. She was like a second mom to her. She came to me and she said, I'm not feeling well, and I think I'm having heart issues. And I ran her and I said, I know you're working with your cardiologist. I want you to keep working with them, but this is serious. I would suggest going to them and adding these natural things along with your medication and really trying to, get this calmed down and resolved before something more serious happened. And she went to her doctor, and her doctor says, absolutely not. All that stuff is trash. And it's not, hawthorn berry's been used ancient, thousands of years to strengthen and rework and re-knit the heart together. We know like every 7 or 8 years, our organs are completely restored. What makes the difference between year 1 and year 8? The nutrition and how you live your life, stress and exercise, yada, yada, food, of course, but also the additional nutrition. And herbs are just nutrition, but doctors don't see it that way. And I respect it. That's their training by drug companies. But, and then 3 weeks later, she happened to be the head of a nunnery. And, one of the sisters wrote me and said, Lynn is dead. She had a massive heart attack but the app doesn't lie. And as much as I want it to lie, because I run this stuff, I have panels called Integration of Darkness. It's all dark shadow work. I don't want it to be true about me, but it's like this, what do they call it? Like, it's like ruthless, but it's loving because it gives you truth. And if you embrace that work, you can upgrade. If you are in resistance, you can get angry about it and say it's crap. It's up to you,
Yeah, and I should just say this as well. I don't think we mentioned this, but obviously your doctor is in
naturopathy.
Yeah, but because obviously that's a strong pull for you as well throughout the conversation. You've been bringing that up, so I just wanted to mention that. So yeah, and how long did that take to do something like that? Was that a couple of years?
6 to 8 years, because I was a mother of 4 young children, and so I did it very slowly. I had to get my master's and I had to do clinical. At one time I just want to mention this, I don't always mention this. At one time I had 4 clinical in-person practices in Columbus, Ohio. So I have seen people, the old, and now we do everything online, and especially since the youth what. But I have had clinical practices where I did live test people and had a staff and did it in a clinical setting. So I do have that experience, to bring to
Yeah. Well, I guess you've integrated that into what you're doing right now as well, with the paranormal as well, and we're going to get into the paranormal. Just everything we're talking about is connected to that. But you do deliverance consultations. Actually, what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to link your. There's a page here as well that I found. Well, it's not found, but it's the services that you offer that are on your site. I'm going to link that below as well, and I'll just put that on the screen because there's a number of different things that you do. And I mean, even if people just feel drawn to sort of to come see you for a reading, I guess you'll if they're not too sure, then you can help them to sort of narrow down what might be what's calling them at a deeper level to come get that as well. Now I know that you've done a lot of work as well on Bigfoot and Sasquatch. I'm going to say is that the same thing? I don't really know that it's not my forte. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
They call. I mean, it's they have like Yeti, Sasquatch, the abominable snowman. All those are kind of in the same.
There's so many people into that. Yeah, that people love this stuff.
Right. You're right.
Yeah. What's your take on that phenomena? What would you say it is?
I'm going to be honest. So up until about 5 years ago, I really didn't give it much thought. Like I was interested in it as a child because, of course, I was interested in Loch Ness Monster and witches and all of it, the Ouija boards and yada, yada. I mean, because that's who I am. I love all that stuff. But since I was a child, I didn't give it much thought. I was all like demons, which I don't believe in anymore, but demons and ghosts and discarnate spirits and haunted. Like I was all about that. I worked as a medium with a lot of, psychic groups all across the country. And, I did a lot of paranormal work distant with them because I could remote view. So they'd call me up and be like, hey, we're heading over to a haunted house. And where should we set up our cameras? And who are we going to run into? And if you guys have ever been on a real paranormal investigation, they're boring as crap. If you don't have someone that can see or a couple people, it makes it more interesting. I used to say, there's a dark figure standing right there. Do you see it? They're like, no. I'm like, well, just take a picture. And then they're like, oh yeah, we see it. Thank you so much. So I used to do that. But then it's funny. A couple years ago, I was watching our favorite friend YouTube, and I was bored one day, and I ended up, you start watching, videos on cats, and you end up watching videos on Bigfoot. And the wall of videos on Bigfoot is you want to see Bigfoot. So all these people are out like going through the woods, and you're like, I want to see, I want to believe. Like, so they're like, Bigfoot sighted in the Rocky Mountains. And I'm like, oh, cool. But you never see Bigfoot. It's always some big chase excuse. Until one day I was watching this guy because I live in North Carolina in the US, who lived about, I didn't know he lived about, but he lives about an hour away from me. And he's like, do you see there's a female? I've never heard anybody say there's a female Bigfoot. And he's like, do you see her dress? And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, stop the presses. This guy is like whack, crazy, out of his mind. I'm going to watch it just because he's so crazy. But then I watched the video and I saw what he was describing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we have problems because now I'm crazy. I'm like, okay, well, I know how to resolve this. I'm going to take my daughter. I'm going to get a hold of him on Facebook. I'm going to say, can I come to your house? Because back in the day, Kevin, this is how dumb I used to be. I thought Bigfoot and the cryptids and these interdimensional creatures, as I call them now, were only in certain locations because that's kind of how we're programmed. Like you have to go to the Sierras in Nevada or, so I had to go to his house, right, to see these. So I went to his house and I pulled in and he runs out of the house and he grabs me by the arm and he says, and he was so gracious in allowing me to come because you really shouldn't you guys don't do that. Don't let people that want to see Bigfoot come to your house from Bigfoot. It's not smart. But he grabbed me by the arm and he turns me around and there's this field across from him and there's a tree line all the way down the field. And he said, do you see that young Sasquatch swinging on the branch? And it was summer day, completely still. And this one tree was moving and I saw. And then he said, now look, do you see them all lined up waiting for you? They knew you were coming. Like I wept. It was one of the most magical experiences of my life. But what was more magical was when I went home because somehow that opened up my vision for this fourth, fifth density dimension. And then I could see them. And guess what? They're not just at his house. They're downtown Winston-Salem. They're outside of restaurants. They're in my house. They're outside my house. Of course, I live in the woods, and yes, they are more prevalent other places, but all densities overlap each other. So it's not you going to them. It's you staying where you are and getting really still. Exactly. And opening your vision and being silent and still. And guess why we don't see? Guess why we don't know? Guess why we don't hear? Because we don't go inward. We think the answers are all out here, other people and other things and books and videos. You don't go still. And when you go still and you connect with your heart and with your, just even asking, I'd like to see a little person. I'd like to see a gnome. I'd like to see a pixie. Some of these beings are very compassionate. They're not just groups of beings, just like they're not groups of people. They have their own personality. Some love people, some hate people, some are horrible, some are kind. And so you have to start understanding the true fabric of the multiverse.
Well, they say, don't they, that you want to find heaven, it's here right now. What if we're walking through heaven, but actually, you know what? This is the reality we see right now. If you change your perception and your frequency, then in the same space.
Focus. Absolutely. So,
well, isn't that, you've said this before, if you don't allow for the belief, you won't experience it.
The first steps is I hadn't really allowed me, with all my abilities, hadn't even allowed for the belief that Sasquatch walks among us. I put out a recorder last night. I haven't pulled it because I have heard the Sasquatch talking on my security cameras. I live in a habitation, I happen to live in a very high level habitation spot where they actually make structures, knock down trees constantly, which I get mad at them for doing. If I don't give them their snacks, they knock down my trees, which I don't like. But anyway, so I live in a great place, but I had to allow for that belief because I've showed my dad, of course. I said, Dad, do you think all those trees could fall in that teepee thing with little perfect squares and the ground be trampled like that? He's like, yes. Because he doesn't allow for the belief that anything else could cause it.
I think it's good. I think it's good to have the discern inside there as well. We need to have that, right? I think it's important. But I think what you've done, what's interesting with your work, is this your ability to sort of really look outside the box and say, have we thought further than where we've got to? I always say, right, that no matter how many guests I've had on my show and how many books that they brought through, what they know is a grain of sand on an infinite beach. Really, there's no, if one book, and no one book does say that. Well, a very few books do say that they've got the truth, but with the guests that I have on, there's their truth at that moment, or what they feel that they've gained. But as you've gone on your journey, I guess you've realized that, what do we really know?
Absolutely. And obviously this infinite conscious you outside of here can connect and know everything. And I actually do believe, and I think this is programming that tells us that we can't. I do think as we expand and we rise and our frequency gets higher and we have this purification and we deal with our shadow, and our avatar, which they designed crappily on purpose, but our avatar works as good as it can, and our spirit can travel anytime, anywhere. And I think all the answers are available outside of here. This is a very repressive, programmed, controlled environment. If you can learn to go out of body, if you can, I think you can look at timelines. I can tell them things, which I'm going to encourage you to not just look at global timelines and other people's timelines, look at your timelines, because that'll show you the exact clear path of where to go. And that's a very rare ability. Very few people can read timelines and accurately predict future events, accurately being the key word. But I think all the answers are available. I don't think we're taught how to go to them. I think we think somebody else, we have to get them from somebody else. And I say go directly.
I know. Directly. Yeah. But look how many times we say to ourselves, oh, if I only listen to that inner voice, my inner voice, not what someone else is telling me to do. If I knew the answer, I just didn't listen to myself. But that's also okay, because that's the experience you got from it as well. I agree. I could come to you and you could say, look, Kev, don't get involved in that relationship, and I'll be like, no, I'm going. She's the one. You're like, I don't think you should. Yeah, but I agree. Then I'm going to come running back to you in a couple of months or maybe a year and say, oh, do you know what? You were right. I shouldn't have done that, right? But now I've got, but there's no wrong or right. It's I suppose.
I love that you said that, and I do want to make that clear in my point of view. And in the multiverse, in the higher dimensional civilizations and realms, there isn't this polarity. Like you said, there is no right or wrong. Even if you get involved in an abusive relationship, that's not right or wrong. It's all just experience. It's all just part of the game.
Yeah, but if I'm going to go and knowingly hurt someone or abuse someone knowingly and abuse my power, I think that the only repercussions of that will be my development, or other people that are going through the same thing.
It's a cause and effect. You'll have the natural effect of what you chose. Again, I don't necessarily think that's right or wrong. That's the experience that you're choosing to have. If you want to go out and murder 100 people, again, that's your experience that you're choosing to have. We're not saying there's not going to be a consequence of that, but that's still and guess what? We have to get rid of this fear. Oh, it's so thick in this reality of death. There is no death. This is an avatar. You are infinite, eternal spirit. Where's the death? You are exactly the same person when you die as you are this second listening to this. And so we have to once you get rid of that, it really also is very, very freeing. And again, you start to look at things more from the outside in. I think we're always looking at things from 3D out. We need to come out of 3D and be able to go down in density, but also be able to go up in density.
And that's not escaping this 3D reality, because it's important to be here now. What we're saying is, do you want to be more joyful? Do you want to have a life that is everything you really wanted as well? I'm not saying it's not going to be any challenges, but you can do the great things that you maybe want to do, or whatever it is that's pulling you, because you can manipulate this kind of reality in a sense in some respects.
But you have to understand this reality, and I don't think you can understand this reality from within it trying to look out. I think we have to step out and say, oh, I get it. I get the rules. And that's one of the things I teach in my monthly groups and my classes is
yes. aren't you doing an event next year? I saw on your website there's some big event you're doing next year. Tell me about that. We'll get back to the subject. Don't worry. I just want to, because you do teach this, what we're talking about.
Normally we do a live event once a year, and normally they're sold out, and we don't advertise them publicly because I have kind of a core group that's followed me for 15 years, and they're very wonderful, and so they get first dibs. But because of the thing that's going around the world, we decided this year just to chill. We don't want to cancel, yada yada, so we skipped this year. But and usually we have it on the East Coast. I live in North Carolina, and everybody flies all over to me. But I've always been promising everyone that I'll go to the West Coast. So we're going to go to Sedona in November 2022. And I decided what we're talking about here is what we're going to do. Everybody's like, how do I see interdimensionals? How do I see fairies? How do I see portals? How do you open and close a portal? How do you know where a portal is? What can you do at a portal? All these magical things. It's going to be a very experiential. We're going to get military vision night goggles. We're going to do ship communication. We're going to, ship spotting 2 nights. It's going to be 3 days, 4 nights. We're going to go to a ghost town. We're going to go to ruins. We're going to show you where the energy is. We're going to hopefully, by being all together, we can all increase our frequency. And I think some people's abilities are going to be turned on for the first time and hopefully never turned off again. So everyone's like, can you teach me to see? I can teach anybody how to see a Sasquatch. I can see anybody how to teach you the dimensions, but it's a lot easier when you're with me. We have that immediate bounce. Is this what I think I'm seeing? And I'll be like, oh yeah, that's amazing. You got it, So that's what we're doing.
Okay, so that's on your website. So what we're going to do, I'll link. There's some information coming up on the screen right now, but I'll also link in the show more below a link to the event. But again, this is on your website as well. You'll be able to find the 2022. It sounds crazy saying that, but it's only around the corner, really.
And I just want to say really quick, we are limiting to like 25, 30, and we already have 19 reserved. So it's probably closing out soon. So you can get your deposit back at this time if you change your mind. So don't hesitate if you think you might want to go, because only your deposit reserves your spot.
Well, yep. So we'll put that down there. So I saw that on your website earlier on. I was like, I must mention that when you were saying this stuff. So, okay. So, it's funny. We have this interview right now. In 2 days, right? The Matrix 4 trailer is about to drop, or the teaser trailer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it comes out this year, and when I think about the Matrix films, and now there's a 4th one coming out, I see your work sort of, very much, skirting around some of the issues that kind of genre is trying to present to us. The idea that this is not what we think it is.
Kevin, I've been back and forth so many years. I think I've settled on what I'm going to stick to till I leave this realm. I'm not coming back, by the way, people. So enjoy me while I'm here, because I'm not coming back here. But which you guys can all make that same decision. They don't tell us that either. But if you go to the Secchi cams, SECCHI, the Secchi cams, and you look at the sun simulator, and they have many pictures of the sun simulator, and you'll probably have to find the right one. But one of them has, I don't know why they show us this. You can see, when you look at the top of the sun simulator, you can see the wings of the spaceship sitting on top of the sun simulator. Well, why is there a spaceship sitting on top of the sun simulator, of course, which is blocking the gate out of here? If only we could get there. But so it runs, I'm not going to say the name because I'm not really allowed to say it, and I want to teach about it to my groups privately first, but it runs, one of the computers that runs this reality is sitting in that spaceship on top of the sun simulator, being run by someone. Some would term it a demon, but I don't believe in demons. Just a being that doesn't have our best, one of the controller beings. And then the other one is old technology, and it doesn't work real well, which is why I think the Matrix is glitching a lot. And you guys probably have been experiencing some of that, is in the moon base too. So there's another AI computer that runs the Matrix. But guess what? Neither of those computers could work if it wasn't for beings like you and I, Kevin, and members of your audience that are real fire creation spirits, the ancient ones. If we left, which is why we're here. So everybody's worried, oh, if I do this or I do that or I take this, you know what I mean? I'm going to pass, or some people are worried for their jobs. As a fire creation being, they're not going to get rid of you guys. It's a calling of the clones. They don't want to get rid of us. If you've ever talked to someone who's a true whistleblower, they usually let you go on years and years and years and bang your drum and speak before they off. Like, they'll do everything they can to let you live, because they don't want to let you out of here. They don't. if there is no death, what does death become? Even if someone kills you, if there is no death, it becomes exit. You have free will. Once you exit, you get to choose not to come back. So they're not automatically recycling these people that they off. And we all know that they get rid of, I mean, the CIA, ex-CIA, all sorts of people. We know that they eliminate people. But if they're a real fire creation spirit, you can pretty much, I mean, they might stalk you, and they do, targeted individual program. They sky stalk me all the time. They do all sorts of things. I had a woman block me in my driveway yesterday. It's absolutely mad, the stuff they do. You just have to laugh. It's very flattering, actually. But, they'll harass you, but they're not going to, I mean, you can rest easy. You're probably the safest. If you are a real human, well, there are no human beings, but if you're a real spirit on this planet in an avatar, you can rest pretty, because you're not going to have an accidental. They're going to let you live till you're like 105, you guys, because you're holding up the matrix.
Do you feel sometimes though that if they weren't background people, that some some of the people that have crossed over actual souls having a human experience, right? But those souls at a deeper level have chosen that this is my particular exit point right now. I'm just done.
Possibly, especially if they're an ancient soul and they have an understanding of their abilities, that would be absolutely very possible that they could leave. Yeah, I think so.
If you were maybe to communicate to some of these people that have crossed over, even in the COVID situations, right? Some of them may say, well, look, you know what? It was my time. It may seem like, yes, the COVID did take me. Of course it did. But actually, you know what? It was my time. Nothing's not, not in sort of perfect order sometime.
I have this phrase that's like mind bending. So I teach everything matters and nothing matters. So if you're an infinite being of consciousness, all powerful, infinite being the key word, who cares if you come to Earth for 5 years and pass, or 20 years and pass, or 6 years and pass? Who cares if you get run over by an elephant or a truck or a virus? It doesn't matter. Like, you chose to have that experience. Now you had it. Now you can choose a different experience or a different game, or you can come back and play this game again. There's so many timelines going on at the same time. There's so many realms that there's fragments of your spirit you just don't remember or know. And sometimes you do. Sometimes in dream time, you switch your focus of attention from daytime. And so at nighttime, you're actually glimpsing the other realities and the other timelines that you're in, because you've turned off your attention from the daytime 3D here. And now you're focused on nothing. So your other lives and other timelines and other realms pop in.
Well, who's to say that, when you're waking up in the morning, that you've actually woken up in the same universe? I'm not saying you're not. I'm just saying, well, what if there is a multi-universe? What if you're shifting your reality and you're manifesting, trying to manifest something different? What if you're just slightly just changing something and it's just somewhere?
Absolutely. My 23-year-old daughter called me up the other day and she said, Mom, did you feel it? And I said, I don't know. I was doing something. What do you mean? What did I feel? And she goes, the timelines just switched. So my children are also very advanced beings. One of them is from the future and they have mad abilities, but I love being able to have those conversations, like how sensitive to know. And sometimes I can feel them too, but I just thought it was cool that, feel that.
And I think that, for those people that have, got loved ones that are, that are left behind, and that they're in the pain of, someone that they love that's crossed over. Yes, that's obviously very, very difficult. Do you know what I mean? To go through that. And when anyone's died, what we would perceive at a young age as well, it's fucking painful for the people that have got to go through that grief. And we're just saying, the way we're talking it, we're not, we're seeing it from our perspective, but for other people, right. It's very, very difficult. And I think. But if only they could realize that they're never gone, that we've always been forever, we always will be. Energy can't be destroyed. Yeah.
And people that hired me to talk to their loved ones, I just did a scan on a woman who passed years ago. From 2015, she passed from suicide. I did a scan and connected with her in a mediumship type way. But it's so interesting. And this particular person actually is reincarnated on Earth, and she chose to come back because it's free will. And we could get way off. I don't believe in karma either. I think that's a program they like to keep us under. That's a whole nother conversation as well. But I would encourage all of you who have lost loved ones, even pets, old, young, I encourage you, don't need me. They may be busy and they may not be available and they may not want to continue relationship, because what we don't understand, whether in here, how you grow away like from college friends or relatives move away or your neighbors move away or old friends grow. We grow away as we change, right? We choose who we want to be around. Sometimes we grow out of our marriages, we grow out of our relationships, we grow out of our, I mean, I was really close to my brother when I'm young. I'm not close to him now. Like, we change. But what we don't understand is we have to stop thinking like past people are different from living people. They're not. They're spirit. We're spirit. We're in an avatar. They could be in an avatar somewhere. So all you have to do is say, Grandma or Bob or Sally or my pet Muffin, could you come hang out? Like, I'd like to talk to you. Can you send me a sign? Can I talk to you? Are you okay? Like, oftentimes they will come to you in a dream. They will leave you a sign. But you know why we have not? I'm not a big Bible fan. I call it the script, but there is some truth in the Bible. And one of the verses is we have not because we ask not. So why do they not come? Why would, if they don't know you want to come, they're not going to haunt you. I mean, that's a whole nother, that does happen, but your grandma's probably not going to haunt you and torture you and harass you, follow you around. But if you want to talk to grandma, ask. So you have to stop seeing these people as woo-woo ghost spirits like we see in the movies. They're people. They're still existing. They may be in other realms, planets. They may be in other avatars, but they can still come and connect with you, or they may not choose to. They have free. We just lump everything together and we mush it down and we make
we're
it
good
all.
at that. Yeah.
And we have to start. And we get memory wipes, and then we forget, and we do it again the next day. We mush it down. We forget everything we learned the day before, which is one of the reasons why I think we repeat our mistakes. But there's a frequency match thing. What you might choose to be when you pass from here may not be what you might choose in 50,000 years or 50 million years.
Right, and you know the whole idea, as you say, of the free will to want to come back here, and we do, right? Even though you're saying on this interview you're adamant that you're not, right? And you know,
Right.
you know, you're going to get that contract, and it's going to go in the waste paper bin as soon as you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. But there must be a real something much bigger that we're missing of that wanting to just be so desperate to want to come back for this experience. That there must be a much bigger. Something that's so special about this that there is.
Theories, though. Okay, let's pretend there's no word for time. You're so ancient. You've seen it all. You've been it all. You've been trees and fishes and Dracos and murderers and princes and kings and men and women. And you've had so much sex. You never want to have sex again. And you've been rich and you've been poor and on and on. You've been everything. And let's say somebody created like this vicious game. And part of the viciousness of the game was you get memory wiped when you come in and you don't know who you are. You don't know you were gods and magicians and magical unicorns and planets and all these things you've been. Like, you get wiped. When you're bored, sounds pretty good to me. Let's go. Let's play. That's one of my theories. That is one of my theories for the ancient ones that have chosen. It's not always altruistic. Let's help people here. I mean, half the people here aren't people. It's more about us than them. I think we have to start trying to be savior and save the world. And yes, we can contribute to the collective consciousness because we're all together, the reals, creating every single thing, negative and positive. The program throws in some background, but you can see through it, pretty easily. But I think, and you know what? Sometimes I hate to say it, after all my blather about wanting to get out, there's days I love this game. There are days I love this game. I love the challenges. I love the things that are thrown at me. I mean, it can be pretty cool,
With this whole idea that you talk about, that we're in this matrix, that that there is a control here. Well, I suppose you almost call it a prison planet in a sense, because it's not as free as the energy that we do really come from, and there really is some restrictions here. Obviously, who's putting those restrictions on, and what is beyond those restrictions? If we could get beyond there, which we think we can. I mean, aren't we blasting up into space, and we're heading out to the moon, back to the moon at some point soon, and there is some freedoms, but you feel that it's not so free as we think.
Again, I feel free because I can escape the body at any time. I can be talking to you, and I can go where I want. I have that ability, and some of you guys do too. So I feel free, freer than a lot of people do, but it's the corporations, it's the Galactic Federation, I believe, that kind of is the layered ultimate control. Everybody's like, oh, the Dracos, oh, the Illuminati, oh, the Cabal. No, I think it's the corporations right under the Galactic Federation, and I don't know what Corey whatever says about this, but I know the Galactic Federation has conquered and controlled and taken over. I mean, watch Star Trek, they'll tell you 500,000 like planets are now in the Galactic Federation. That's not because they all volunteered to be in the Galactic Federation. It's because they were conquered and invaded and taken over. And I believe if there is a good alien help, I think it's going to be the Galactic Federation once again taking over this realm, even though it's a game realm, even though, it's still, there's viable fire creation spirits here. And I also want to say fire creation spirits aren't just people. Fire creation spirits are trees. Fire creation spirits are plants. I see plants walk around my yard at night all the time on the security cameras, and I have video of it. Fire creation spirits are animals.
Well, we did have some pictures, didn't we? We did have some pictures. You sent in some pictures, and we've not even gone over them.
All right, so this was an image I captured on my security cameras because it alerted me that there was somebody on the screen. And so when I reviewed it, I'm like, wow, this looks like fairies holding hands. And everybody's like, it's bugs. And I'm like, okay, well, then it's bugs holding hands, which is still a pretty interesting picture. But I think it's, since we have pictures of other small people on the property, I was pretty sure, to me, this looked like fae. I mean, pretty clearly, you can kind of see the hands and the heads and the shapes and the wings and all of it,
Okay, that's the first picture. So let's just go to the next picture. And
Right. And I highly recommend your audience, if they really want to see this, that they take a screenshot and then you blow it up on your own computer and look at it in more detail and try to disprove it. This, I got an alert that there was an intruder, human intruder on my property. So of course I freak out, look at my camera, and I looked at my camera live. This gentleman stood, when I first moved into my new house, he stood outside in different positions outside this door. This is the door to my garage for 3 days. And I thought I might be able to see him with my eyes. So I actually went outside, and it was raining. I'm like, well, maybe he wants to come in the garage. And because I interact with these beings all the time, beings like this. But I couldn't see him with my eyes. So I just left him out in the rain. But to me, he looks like a warrior class little people. And if you look up the legends of the little people in North Carolina, he's about that white thing behind him is a planter, which is about 1.5 feet tall, 2 feet. So that's gives you some perspective of how tall I think he is, about 1.5 feet. And I just felt like he was kind of introducing himself and saying, hey, we're around, little people are around, we're here for you, hey, we'll look out. But blows my mind. Like, that's the most detailed picture I've ever got of a little person on my property. Although I do see them out of the corner of my eye generally. So I was on my deck, and I can read frequencies really well because I've been working with frequencies for 30 years. So generally I feel like these creatures send out kind of a beacon to me that attract my attention, because I was just sitting on my deck. I wasn't looking at anything, but I actually stopped what I was doing and took a picture of the tree, which is, you also have the tree. And then I blew it up, and I think it looks like almost like a chimpanzee, not so much like any mystical creature, but almost like a chimpanzee figure sitting in my tree. And everybody's like, well, maybe there was a chimpanzee. I'm like, no, there is not a chimpanzee sitting in my, huge pine tree in North Carolina. So I thought that was a real, people have trouble seeing pictures sometimes. I thought that was a clearer one of some of the beings,
it almost looks like there's a face there. Is that?
Oh, there is a lot of other creatures in that photo. If you want to blow it up and break it down. Yes, there are other beings there as well. Definitely. That's another thing I teach is, everybody's like, everything's Sasquatch and Dogman, but the Vedas in India, they write about, tens of thousands of these dimensional creatures that overlap our reality. So there's a lot of, mysterious things.
Gosh. Okay. So your website, one more time, Kim, is?
secrettoeverything.com.
Okay, and we've been putting your books up on the screen as well, and they're available on Amazon, and links are on down below and on the website. Just before you go then, Kim, what would you say, especially with the times that we live in right now, what would you say is an important message?
It's hard to do, but one of the things I see every person I scan, including you, but not you as much as the woman I scanned before you, we've got to get fear out of our field. Like, there, that phrase, no fear, like, we have to stop living under fear. If you can get fear out of your body, you won't have as much disease. If you can get out of your energy field, you'll be a much better manifester. You just need to we need to stop being so afraid of man-made viruses, afraid of governments, because the lie is that the corporations, the Galactic Federation, yada, yada, whoever, the doctors, the government is more powerful than we are. The truth is, if you are real, if you're fire creation, you are the oldest breakout of consciousness. You are the top, not the bottom. They want us to think we're the bottom and we're the top. And as soon as you start incorporating that truth into your life will change, your relationship will change, your bank account will change, your job will change, because you will be creating, which is what you are, fire creation. You are most you when you are creating.
Well, Dr. Kimberly, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. It's been a complete pleasure to have you on. I've really enjoyed the time with you. It's just gone way too quick, and we'll get you back on again. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You were a wonderful, wonderful interviewer. Thank you.